Hi, I'm Mark and welcome to Let's Vibe. So I've been thinking about thinking about making a video for a few weeks now, but um, this summer I just wanted to kind of check in and just talk about what's been going on. Um, and maybe some of you can relate to certain things, certain aspects. Um, this summer has been wild. uh, I know in the last video I made, I mentioned, it must have been in June, uh, but I mentioned experiencing a lot of anger, anger from the past coming back up very intensely. And by the middle of June, like right in the middle, I had this triggering moment. Um, had to do with work, had to do with money, things that are very obviously I still have sensitivities around. Um, but it just came out of the blue. At least it felt like that. Um, and suddenly anger was like not an issue anymore. It was just anxiety, fear. Um, it felt like it hit me like a freight train. So discombobulating. And it just felt like my past reared its head. Uh, in a very intense way. And the last 2 months or month and a half, well, 2 months now, the last 2 months have just been a roller coaster. And I always, I have never been one to want to ride roller coasters. I've never been interested in roller coasters. I mean, I've ridden a few smaller ones, and they can be fun when they're small, but I have never been interested in those big roller coasters with the loops and the craziness, the drops, the high speed. No, no. And I've always felt like the reason I've never been interested in roller coasters is because my emotions and the way that I've experienced my life and my feelings and thoughts has often very much been like a roller coaster. And so it's like, I'm good. I, I don't need to do that, physically. I'm already doing the loops. I'm already doing these drops and flying at high speeds and twisting and turning. The roller coaster for me is an internal experience. um, but it has been really disorienting, and it has felt like everything has been chaotic, very uncertain. Work, particularly my online work that I mentioned in a couple past videos, that just especially in July, but starting in June, it started to become very unpredictable. And that was part of the trigger. That was really the main reason for the trigger that I experienced. It just got so unpredictable that I had to I had to scrap my plans for the summer. I hadn't made any like super detailed plans, but I did make some general plans for this summer. And I was, planning my budget, and when the availability of my work just suddenly dropped, it was like, what do I do now? Like, I can't I can't go through with these plans. My budget is completely shot. Um, like, and it, like I said, it was like the past just came up in a very visceral, intense way. And suddenly it was like I felt like I was back 15 years in the past, or even 10 years in the past, where the thought of finding a job, working at some, typical kind of job just triggered so much anxiety. Um, and that ties back to the years when I was very depressed in my 20s, particularly. And during those years, it was because of the depression and because of anxiety and panic and PTSD symptoms. Regular jobs were very difficult for me, and I would try to do them mainly because I felt a lot of pressure from the outside to do them. Um, and I would try, and it wouldn't work out. I would feel way too overwhelmed. It would be just extremely difficult to just function and focus and feel safe. I didn't feel safe. And again, I think that ties in with more past experiences from a long time ago. But it was difficult. I often felt like I was a failure because of that. I felt very ashamed, and there was guilt and embarrassment, and it was awful. And so the fact that over the past year, the fact that I actually got a job at a coffee shop, this was last year, at the very end of September last year, and I held that job. I did it basically full time, um, which that in itself was another, like, I was very surprised. I was very like, whoa, I didn't, it'd been a long time since I had done something like that. And and it was very encouraging. It was very, I was very proud of myself, and I really, it was like, wow, for me, it was like seeing the results in the physical, the results of all of the inner work and shadow work and healing that I had been doing over the last 6 years or so. And so I was feeling really good. And then, as I mentioned in the previous videos, that job ended very suddenly. And so I had to pivot very quickly to this online work. I mean, I didn't have to, but that's what was available. And it, for the first month and a half, that was working, and it was working really well. And I was feeling great. I was feeling even more um, encouraged and, uh, just proud of myself for doing it, making it happen. And so when June came around and things started to get sketchy, it was, yeah, it was like, boom, just all of a sudden, I find myself just in the depths of, I felt like I was thrown back. I felt like I had gone backwards in time or something. It was scary. It was scary because it was like I was moving through, and I'm not like, I'm still kind of in that, but it's not quite as, it's not quite what it was a month ago, but I felt like I was moving through all of the lowlights of my past, like the darkest moments, the most painful moments, the most painful memories. It was, it has been a trip. It has been wild. I've had to really take time to care for myself, for my mental and emotional health, to rest, which is hard because at the same time, all of my worries about money and stability and security were triggered. And so at the same time that I'm needing to rest and care for myself, I'm also feeling this incredible pressure to now find a new job, find, you know, money, financial help, whatever, And for a few weeks, I really couldn't do much because the anxiety was so intense. And that was just another very scary thing because it was like, I haven't experienced this in many years. Why? Why am I feeling like this now? Why has this come up? Why is this stuff rearing its head? I thought I had so many questions, like, what happened to all the work that I did? What happened to all the healing? Like, what the hell is going on? I felt like, I have felt like I made a mistake, like I took a wrong turn. At certain points, I was feeling like everything I've ever done was a mistake, like so much self-doubt. At certain times, I felt like, have I been abandoned? Like, where is my spirit team? Where is spirit? Where is source? Did they leave? Did I do something wrong? Um, Hard, like really hard moments. Um, and just looking back over June and July, I had days where I felt it was very strange, but I felt like I was up against a brick wall. And yet, in the sense that I felt like I had no clue what the next day would bring. How would I even get to the next day? Like, how am I even going to get to tomorrow? That was the feeling, that was the sensation. Like, logically, there's nothing there. But internally, it felt like, what am I facing? I cannot see 2 steps ahead of me. Tomorrow feels like it's behind this wall. How am I supposed to move through this wall? This wall. It felt like very serious endings happening, but mysterious in a way. Like I don't quite know what is ending here, and I don't know what's beginning on the other side. My daily tarot readings did have offered some clues, because during those months, especially by the end of June and in July, I was seeing a lot of Ten of Swords. Sometimes there were a few times when I saw the Death card with the Ten of Swords, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, that seems a little much. But that's exactly the experience that was happening. It felt like a lot, and it felt like these major endings of some kind. Because the Ten of Swords is about an ending, you know, coming to the very end and, you know, going no further. And also implying that there's a new beginning. And then the Death card is that, but on an even bigger and deeper level. I was also seeing a lot of the Judgment card, a lot of that. And again, that, I mean, it definitely felt like judgment experiences of like, how can I put it? Like an awakening call, a call to awaken. Um, a moment of, what's the word? I can't quite think of the words to describe what the Judgment card was showing, but it was like, it went very well. I'll just say it went very well with, you know, the Ten of Swords and the Death card, and um, it's kind of like calling to account of things that I've been carrying, identities I've been carrying, things from the past. And a lot of the Knight of Pentacles, which I interpreted as moving step by step, one day at a time. At the same time, though, I've also seen a lot of these very positive cards, a lot of Ten of Cups, Ten of Pentacles. Oh, also not so positive, but I also saw a lot of Ten of Wands, which was like symbolizing a sense of burden, releasing a burden. But yeah, positive cards like Ten of Cups, Ten of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, Four of Wands, a lot of Four of Wands, which symbolizes an initiation of some kind, an initiatory kind of experience. And the positive cards, I mean, of course, that's great to see those positive cards, but it was hard, it's been hard to kind of make sense of it all in the big picture. Like, what is this pointing to? Or because I'm definitely not feeling 10 of Cups. I'm definitely not feeling, you know, I'm not feeling that great. So this we just had the Lionsgate portal. We're still in it. We're coming out of it, but that was on the 8th, and the energy has just been, for me at least, the energy has just been very uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable. And as I said, just so much uncertainty. Not knowing what's going on in the present, not knowing what's 2 steps ahead, feeling like I can't even make sense of the past. Wild, just wild experiences. And yeah, we've got a solar eclipse. That's technically tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure I'm feeling those energies right now. um, and again, I looked at my transit chart, my personal transit chart for the solar eclipse, and it's, you know, perfect reflection of all of these themes that I've just mentioned. Like, there's been this big theme of this tug of war between my intuition and following that inner voice during this very chaotic period, which is difficult when when emotions are running high, when the mind is racing. It can be really hard to tune into that intuition. But there's been this tug of war between wanting to follow that intuition versus feeling pressured by external circumstances, feeling scared, not knowing what's going on, and wanting to fix things quickly. Big time pushing and pulling between those two. And the astrology is definitely reflecting that. Um, this solar eclipse is opposing my natal sun. So it's just, and you know, this solar eclipse is in Leo, and I have my natal sun in Aquarius. So again, that's definitely about like outward versus inward, honoring the self versus honoring others, the community. Yeah, it's been crazy, and definitely very unexpected. I did not see this coming. But if I were to take a guess, it feels like all of this is a major, major transition period, a major transformational kind of experience. And it feels like and looks like the completion or ending of basically like a past life. So let me know if, you know, how has your summer been going? How have things been for you? Uh, how have you experienced Lionsgate? How are you experiencing this solar eclipse? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thank you so much for vibing with me.